this is a sales pitch. This is a marketing sales pitch. And they're saying that just because this label, and then if you go through the qualifications, yes, there are some vigorous one-time qualifications, one time, okay? But most of these things are not something that I personally feel, especially if it came to my meat and my meat. Okay. When I go to the supermarket, that is not a label that I trust buying my meat personally. Other people might find that, but if they read this, right now, is it better than the alternative? Possibly. We don't really know. We don't know.
Hello and welcome to Teaching Liberty with Queen Bee's Farmacy. I'm Stephanie Edmonds here with Elizabeth, owner of Queen Bee's Farmacy. And today we are going to talk to you about food. You know what to do. Hit that like button. If you're not already, subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. Plus, on Saturday nights, I go live breaking down the trending topics from the week, and you'll often see Elizabeth on there as a co-host too. Also, make sure you are following us both on social media. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. I know Elizabeth is on Instagram. She also has a YouTube channel. Those links are in the description down below. And the official sponsor of Teaching Liberty is Queen Bee's Farmacy. So make sure you head over to queenbeesfarmacy.com. Elizabeth has honey, of course, because she is the queen bee. And all sorts of other health, wellness, and survival products. Use code TeachingLiberty to save 15% off, not just one product, but your entire order. And I don't accept many sponsors. I happen to personally know Elizabeth. I can personally vouch for the quality and freshness of the products. You go, you source them, you get them all yourself. You make them by hand with lots of love. So go over to queenbeesfarmacy.com, use code TeachingLiberty. And we have a lot of great stuff actually coming up for you guys this summer. So I think before we get into the food, should we share with them what we've got planned?
I think so. Yeah, I think a lot of people are waiting for this. I think last year they saw how much fun we had, and so many people after the fact, like they were kind of like, oh, we don't know if we want to go on a trip with you guys, right? Like at first, and then all of a sudden we got a bunch of people signed up. We had a great time. And then after the fact, then everyone was like, oh my God, I would have come with you.
Are you doing another date? This and that. Yeah. So our camping dates, they are here. I want you to head over to teachingliberty.org, go to the events page, and you will see both of the dates listed there. We are doing a family-friendly camping trip, July 4th weekend. So July 4th is on a Tuesday. So this is going to be the Saturday, Sunday, Monday leading up to it. July 1st, it starts. And then the second one is going to be towards the end of the month. And this is an adults only barbecue. We're going to be having a lot of fun on this one. Adults only. We're in a beautiful space on the Delaware River. We go rafting. We have fires. There's always music playing around because there's huge event spaces there and people throw parties, and we kind of go and join in.
Yeah, we had a really good time. I can't wait.
But also we learn survival skills, right? Basic things like how to build a fire.
I think after next weekend, we're going to be able to teach some more survival skills, right? We're going to be really pros after next weekend, I feel like.
Yes, learning how to process venison, and we're going to be roughing it too. I mean, when we go glamping, and this place that we're going has no running water, no bathrooms, none of that. So we're definitely going hardcore for this one. But don't worry, if you're coming camping with us in the summer, we kind of do it glamping style. You can go as hardcore as you want, or I guess you can get a hotel room nearby if you really.
I think we're getting an RV. I think Regina is dead set on getting an RV this year, and Bela is all for an RV. Maybe we would do that for the adults. I'm not really sure. It might be cool to throw all the kids in the RV at night anyway, But yeah, I'm really excited for the summer. I'm really excited to get out on the river. Really excited to see everybody again. kids and no kids, kids and kidless people.
Yeah, the family friendly one, if you don't have kids, that's cool. We're just letting you
Yeah,
know that it is family friendly, but we had people who didn't have kids last time.
totally. And it
It
was a
was,
great time. We had such a great time. Bring
and
your own chair.
bring your own chair. Elizabeth was not
We'll
too
be
happy.
posting campfire and camping with Queen Bee etiquette. Like we'll have an etiquette like thing. And I have to say, Dr. Ben Tapper, because we love him, right? We love Dr. Ben. He puts a lot of great info out there. He agrees with the camp etiquette after,
The incident.
it's a thing. It's a thing. It's not just me. It is not just me. And I was glad to have another pillar in the community say to me, Elizabeth, you should write that campfire etiquette.
All
I
right,
would
so
share
next
it.
video, that's what we're going to be covering, campfire etiquette. But in this video, we're going to be talking about food, which is actually a big part of what we do when we're camping. I always say camping is 50% dancing, 50% food, 100% fun. If you don't understand that math, then you definitely need to come camping so I can break it down for you. Like I said, food is a big part of what we do. Elizabeth goes and sources fresh meat from the farm, brings fresh vegetables, and we cook 2 meals a day, right?
Yeah, 2 meals a day. Obviously, I think we're going to ask people to kind of contribute a little bit more because it was a lot for us to handle to cook for everybody. But yeah, if there are people that want, me to bring a certain type of food for them when I go to the farm, they can place an order and I'll bring it and they can grill it and cook it, burgers, steaks, whatever you want, bacon, right? Whatever we have everything, fresh farm eggs, butter, raw milk. What else? Veggies. We had fresh veggies, tons of fruit. That was one of the really cool things about having all the kids there is that we had so many fresh vegetables and fruit for the kids to just snack on all day. It's a really nice thing to have.
And speaking of food, food is what we are talking about today in this video. And where can we get food? We have our grocery stores, we have our farmers markets, our farm stands, our pop-up shops. But probably we're all most familiar with that grocery store.
I mean, I just think that it is very narrow-minded for Americans of where they get their food. They have like one place for it, and then that's it. Where someone like me, I like to go to different places to source things. It's just what I do personally. I don't need people to do what I do, but yeah, definitely you get a lot more bang for your buck, right? I think one of the biggest things we hear from people is that eating healthy has to cost a lot of money. And we've been showing people over the last 2 years that in fact is not necessarily always truth. In some cases it can be, but we've been able to show people how getting just like a grass-fed cow and doing like a farm share, doing a whole cow with some neighbors or some families, splitting it with 6 families, a whole cow, how you're actually paying less per pound for grass-fed, grass-finished, no hormones, no drugs, no anything, right? Helping support a local farm and stocking your freezer for less than like what the retail high end is, and a lot less. It was significantly less when we did the math.
Right.
So I wonder always who pushes that narrative to people.
Well, I think it's just convenience. I mean, I struggle with this myself. It is much easier when it gets into the spring and the summer and the early fall because the farm stands and the farm shares, they are plentiful. They're all around. As easy as it is to get to a grocery store, you might be able to go to a farmer's market. They have a lot of hours, there are a lot of locations, but for sure, especially in those winter months, early spring, late fall, I know I just get into that habit of Whole Foods is on my way home on the one direction. If I'm coming from the other way, there's a ShopRite grade A, and they have a big variety all in one place. So I for sure understand how we've gotten into that convenience model. Now I am slowly but surely trying to do better. in the summer, like I said, it's easier. I am part of a farm share. So they bring vegetables down from upstate New York and we go pick them up at a common location once a week. Plus, like I said, there's regular farm shares. Although I would say connecting with you has made it much easier. You're always putting the information out there, right? When I'm on my timeline and I'm seeing this, then that is the programming I get, right? Instead of the programming of, oh, your life has to be set up in this convenient way, it makes me think twice about things. And then the second thing is like, you just have a lot of great stuff yourself. And I love supporting my friends. So you have the honey, you go and you do the pop-up shops with the fresh vegetables. We've talked about how we can make meat more affordable and done that several times. So,
and we've shown, and even like, I'm really excited to show people how we're going to eat really healthy this weekend. And the bulk of what I spent our money on for camping was the chicken. The chicken was a little expensive because but we got like a 6-pound whole chicken. Okay. 6 pounds. It's going to last us all weekend. Plus, I'm also going to turn that into stock for us to eat, right? We're making, so I spent $49, right? But we're going to have several meals that I'm probably going to be able to leave a little bit home, right? For the family a little bit. And then we're going to be able to like eat enough and even maybe take some leftovers home, got some lettuce and all of that.
Exactly. It's all about how you think about the food and how you're cooking. And that brings us really to the first topic that I want to cover that I think is a very misunderstood term, and that's processed food. When we think of processed food, we think of, when you're eating out at fast food restaurants or you're buying packaged food. And that definitely is processed food. But the definition is actually a bit more broad than that. Processed food is any transformation of agricultural products into food or of one form of food into another form of food, right? And so this is everything from, hey, I'm just cooking at home, right? I'm grinding things, I'm mixing things, I'm baking things, I'm throwing them in the pan. You're processing food. But it can also refer to those industrial methods that are used to make those packaged convenience foods. So I think we do kind of have to be clear on that. But I would say in general, we can call the convenience foods kind of the processed foods and the things you make at home, like the raw whole foods. That's how I like to break it down. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think processed food for this conversation is just processed food is the stuff that we see on the inside of the aisles at the supermarket.
That brings us to some of the labeling. I'll eat organic food then, right? I go to the grocery store and if I see that USDA organic label, then that means I'm good, right? Not this conventional farming, how things used to be done.
I think we can touch on a couple of things. I think labeling was supposed to be there to inform the consumer. And a lot of times you can get a lot of information from a label. However, I think that anytime something is labeled organic or USDA organic, people assume that it's always going to be healthy. We have set up a lot of different methods, I guess, within the USDA for people to apply for this labeling. It comes down to money. You see many different organic farmers not apply for this because even though they're doing the practices, they're probably even going above and beyond what the practices and the standards would be for a person like me going out and looking and asking, right? But a person, let's say a person in the city doesn't really necessarily know the difference if they're not going and meeting their farmer and knowing the difference and talking with a farmer saying, well, I did have this USDA certification, but I realized I was doing more testing, more protocols to protect my farm this way. And I decided to not be involved with this. And I don't use the USDA organic label. You can't even use the organic label on anything technically. Okay, it's become like a little monopoly here. So I don't want to bash USDA organic either, because I know that there are a lot of companies that honor that label and wear that label as a badge of honor. And I know many companies that do have that. However, we know we know that these things are not always foolproof when we have government bodies overseeing government bodies. And then when it comes down to our food sources, especially what we've seen in the last several years, we know, and even before the last several years, we've seen a lot of different things with our food. One thing I was conveying to you the other day was I went into a local supermarket, and I don't shop there often. When I went in, though, the last time I had been in, when you walk into the produce, there's tons of tables laid out with vegetables everywhere. I went in, there were no tables, and I said, "Oh, where'd all the tables go? Where's all the produce?" It could be because we're moving out of out of winter into spring. But I've never seen a supermarket. It was a ShopRite. You said you shop at a ShopRite. Are your produce shelves empty at your ShopRite?
So I was at a Whole Foods, and it wasn't the produce. It was like a bunch of the meat section, but it was also kind of later on a Sunday. So maybe they were restocking. I'm not sure. I've definitely seen more empty shelves at various times over the past 2 years than I've ever seen in my life. Right. Just like, oh, we haven't gotten it in, or, oh, we're short staff workers. And
yeah.
They always seem to have an excuse.
What do you think about how like maybe because we've seen a lot more over the last 2 years that the more and more it's happening, do you think that like we're getting used to it? So we're not really making that distinction that, oh, there used to be a lot more food here, and now we're slowly seeing things, and I see like the shelving is getting smaller, like for certain
I mean,
items.
I definitely think that's always going to be a strategy, is to like very slowly make changes so people don't notice. That's what I worry about with the schools, is if you just had a kid who started going to school, you don't know what the schools were like as a parent beforehand. So you think it's normal not to be able to go into your kids' classrooms and all these things. So that's definitely what I'm worrying about. But I want to go back to a point that you made earlier about all of this labeling, that is a marketing tool. And in fact, they don't even try to hide that fact. If you go to the USDA's website, right, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, this is part of their agricultural marketing service. It is a marketing label. And as Elizabeth was talking about, this is all about the money. This is all about, can you pay to go through the process? And you can see what you're paying for, because this website is massive. This is just the one page right here listing all the different standards for these things. If you go to the main page, you're going to see all, like, there's just tons of stuff here, rules and regulations.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Massive bureaucracy.
Yeah, it's a lot to go through. The other label that we had, if you want to go down to the non-GMO project, I don't know if you have that pulled up. This is very similar. These are labels that, over time, I really looked at and honored. Like I said, I really look for these labels if I'm going to be buying packaged goods from the store. Those are the labels that I look for. But now I'm always glad when you and me and Regina do some research and dig a little bit, because I think I know things, right? I know a lot of things about these topics, but then things have changed too since the last time I've researched these things so much, and I'm reading things. I'm like, holy cow.
Listen, Elizabeth, they employ hundreds, if not thousands, of government bureaucrats to keep these things up to date so that you never know what the latest thing is.
It's crazy to me, but I'm really grateful that we're doing this, because I like to be up to date. And I after we go through this, I'll fill you in. But they do have a thing for honey, and I thought, I started reading the stuff about honey, and I'm like, guys, I could go get this label. They promised me $60 million more revenue, not personally, but when you add their label, that's how much it promises you with this non-GMO label. And for the honey, you really just have to write an affidavit, because there's no way to control, because the non-GMO project is not promising you no GMOs in the food. You got to get to the meat of what they promised.
Yeah. Well, let's go over what a GMO is. So GMO, genetically modified organism. In this case, we're talking specifically about food. And this is where certain molecules are added or removed from the DNA of food, of the food product, to enhance it in some way. Enhance it. right? That's
Right.
what, of course, they're trying to do. So this gene is inserted into the organism of the food that it normally wouldn't have, or one is taken out. And they're usually from a virus or a bacteria. And
Yeah.
it's designed to alter the way food is grown. And that was mind blowing to me, because when I'm thinking of them altering the genes and the DNA, I'm like, oh, they're like going in there and like taking something out of the sequence of DNA, or however those scientists do it. And actually, I don't really understand the science behind this, but apparently there's something you can do with a virus or a bacteria that will change your DNA. Or I'm sorry, not your DNA, the DNA of food, because we're definitely not talking about changing human DNA here.
Right. So I think the premise of GMO was really, I don't want to sit here and say that it was founded and created with these ill intentions that we've seen it come about to. I think that even with this little blurb you have here at the bottom, most commonly created to provide higher nutritional value to food and also makes it resistant to pests. I think that the premise of these ideas was maybe a really good idea when we're thinking, oh, can we get an apple to have more nutrients in it? Can we get, this to have more nutrients in it? But as we've seen, as a farmer and as people that eat
They're
food,
not just picking like, oh, this is the best apple, let me take these seeds and grow this one next year. Like, that's what I
right.
think of when I'm thinking that they're
Yeah,
modifying things.
it's a little warped the way things have gone, I think. And anyone that can't understand that, the resistant to pests is a great idea, but that means all the bugs are going to be affected, not just the pests that attack the food, but it's all transferred. And so that's where, and we see these problems coming in. So as I stated, if they were able to like just resist the pests only, right? But you can't do that. You can't alter those things that way.
And they even admit this pretty openly. If you
Yeah.
go to any number of websites that are about GMOs, they'll be like, oh, it was so that we could improve the nutritional value and resist all these
And
bugs.
stop hunger. Stop
Right, it
hunger.
lowers
Feed the
costs.
people more yields.
Exactly. So it sounds like all these great things, but then they will say, hey, there might be some cons to it too. They do let you know. They
Right.
do a good job of making them not seem like that big of a deal, but they're openly telling you that these can lead to producing bacterial toxins leading to resistant bugs, right? So these can produce bacterial toxins leading to resistant bugs. So the bugs, it won't matter. They can still get past it, right? Same thing with super weeds. They can figure out how to evolve themselves beyond these GMO technologies. They cause allergic reactions. And this is something that I was like, oh, do they now? Since I seem to be allergic to so many foods these days that I wasn't before. And just that little cancer thing, it's not, they say it's rare. So
So I find it always interesting that every year the same people are at, and I'm a beekeeper, so I'm going into the hardware stores to pick up paint, and I'm always seeing these older generation people with the Roundup ready to go kill the dandelions. And it's a very big pet peeve of mine. I always get involved and say something. However, if it's working, why do you have to go back for it every year? And so one time I was at a hardware store, and this woman who was behind the checkout, she said, this is not the time and place to have this conversation to me. And I said, well, this is the hardware store. This is exactly the place. This is like our community right here. And she said, that man is very sick. I said, probably because you're selling him Roundup at $60 a pop and it's going into his groundwater. That's why the man's sick. Anyway, that's where I feel about this program now. After reading a lot, I'm going to think twice about this label.
Is this the non-GMO verified label that you're talking about?
Yeah. And you know what? It's really important for us to just really realize that, like, going to like ordering bulk, like me, you, and a couple of other friends, finding a quality, fair trade place to source. Like, we're looking at lentils and flour and things there. Even we could probably even get a better bulk price than going to like our local health food store, or maybe even saying to the health food store, hey, when you order, may I place an order with you to get bulk? That's other ideas that I have for people, because buying these packaged things that these labels are slapped on there, you're paying for the label. You're paying for the label, Okay, because they even say it in here somewhere. I don't remember exactly, but they said you can increase your price. People will pay. They know you will pay $3, $4, $5 more if that label is slapped on it because you feel safety from that label.
The thing though that I think is really interesting is we don't even have to go to like the non-GMO things. We can go back to that organic label. And I think that this is a huge point. Just because it says organic does not mean that they're not using different types of chemicals or pesticides or these things that you might otherwise think are like, oh, it's organic. They don't use
Right.
that. Well, if you look right here at USC 6501-6524, these are the national list of, oh, I'm sorry, hold on. This is 7. So if you look at the 7 CFR Part 205 Subpart G, this was up to date as of 4/27/23. This is the national list of allowed and prohibited substances. So that means that there are some substances that are allowed at least up to a certain amount.
And like ppms and
right. And
right.
so I highly encourage you to go to the USD's website and look at this. And I actually think it's interesting and worth bringing up is to see how they define organic. Because when I was looking at the definition of like, okay, what is organic food? I expected them to basically be saying, oh, like you can't use these particular chemicals or additives or herbicides when you are farming. And that's not what it is, actually. So I just think it would be good to pull that up and read a definition of how the USDA defines organic and what those organic labels mean.
Right. And the whole thing about bringing up the GMO label and comparatively to this is just really show that it is a marketing. They have it. It's
right.
it's more
really
marketing.
Hard to find. You see this website, I have to like go to like 3 different
It's
pages.
really hard to find, but I think we'll be able to pinpoint and add that in here for people. But I think it's just really important for people to understand that the main goal is not your health and not transparency. The main goal here with these certifications, and this is to not say this is about the businesses that get these certifications. I'm not saying that, but the way that they have this set up, even it says marketing, they have it set up as a sales pitch. You're making a sales pitch, and somebody that has looked into getting my products tested and getting them on certain places, right, on certain certifications, all it is money. Of course, you have to get your products tested, of course, but I have no problem getting my products tested. That's fine. I would love to pay to get my products tested. But is that seal, is that label really telling my customers, hey, this is X, Y, and Z, and you can count on X, Y, and Z because these two labels don't do that. They don't provide that. I would need another certification to convey what I would like to convey to my consumers.
And so when you go to their Q&A where it says, what requirements do organic products have to meet? This is what they say. Organic products must be produced using agricultural production practices that foster resource cycling, promote ecological balance, maintain and improve soil and water quality, minimize the use of synthetic materials, and conserve biodiversity. And then it says products must be overseen by the USDA and they must be produced without excluded or prohibited methods. And they list those there, and they can be produced using allowed substances. So I just thought it was interesting that it was far more expansive than, I guess, my lay person's understanding of what it means. I thought it would just be like, oh, you can't make things using these substances. And then when I go to the list of like excluded or prohibited substances, it's again, it's one of these things that's like, what am I supposed to be reading? But it's not even just like a list, right? It's not even just like, here's a list of things that you can't use. It's like, here's the issue. Could a farm's organic certification be threatened if barriers and buffers are not established to inadvert contact with GMO materials? So again, it's not that these things aren't important, but I thought I was clicking on a link that was going to give me a list of the things that I couldn't use. So it's just all over the place. It's really hard for a regular person to understand, to keep track of. And I think, again, the most important point is it is meant to be for marketing, and B, it is about bureaucracy and government control. When there are so many rules and they're all over the place and they're conflicting, there's two things, that's not a rule of law.
Right. Right. And it makes it very hard for, and I don't want to call it the average person, but anybody. It doesn't matter if you're average, above average, below average. I mean, reading through this is not only time consuming and exhausting, but if you're paying this much money for this label because you're the consumer going out there, it should in fact be a little bit easier for you to find the criteria of why you're paying this much money for that label. And that's where I feel us as the consumers are failing ourselves, because we are paying a lot more for USDA organic. We are paying a lot more for the non-GMO verified, all of that. And at the end of the day, I feel a little swindled, right? Just being a person that knows a lot about this stuff and going on here to be able to give this information now tonight. I'm kind of like, this isn't
Right.
quality. It's
Well,
not
I think that they make it difficult to, I don't know, let's see, how can I say this? In many ways, I think it seems difficult, right? They throw all this information at you and it almost, I just give up. I'm just going to try to do the best that I can, whatever.
Right.
But I actually do think that there is a simple answer. And you've been saying it, or at least alluding to it in different ways. And that's know your farmer, know the people who produce the food, or, not everybody can live in a place that has access to wide ranges of things local.
Sure.
Meet the person who's then importing it, right? Find a group of friends, take a trip out to the country and go buy things. When we start to take the time to really connect with our food and give it the thought that it deserves, and not just this factor of convenience or something that you have to do, I think that's also going to get to the heart of a lot of the other issues that are in our society. It's not just what you eat, but it's how you cook what you eat. It's how you eat what you eat. Are you sitting down with other people? Are you enjoying conversation? Are you giving praise for the food that you're eating? So I think that we just have to get out of this convenience model and really take that responsibility, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, it's really getting those raw whole foods. Maybe you do end up at a grocery store and you're playing this label game. Do the best you can. I try to buy like the dirty dozen stuff. So the berries and the apples, the things that have the exposed skin, organic. Again, it's not perfect. I try to look for the local things if I'm at a grocery store. And then things that have peels like oranges or avocados, I don't necessarily worry about as much. The meat, I think that beef is always the better choice. It's more nutrient dense, and even in a factory farming situation, it's not nearly as bad as the chicken. So that's kind of some of the basics that I do if I'm at a grocery store.
I would tend to disagree, only because I know what kind of hormones and vaccines are given to the chickens versus the cows. But I did want to say that I found this marketing link here that for the non-GMO project verified. It's on the verification FAQs. And it says, when you land the butterfly, you boost your appeal, because this is, why should I get my product on non-GMO project verified? When you land the butterfly, you boost your appeal to conscious consumers, support a natural and genetically diverse supply chain, and increase your growth opportunities across retail and distribution channels. The butterfly is the fastest growing label in the natural product industry, representing about 40 billion in annual sales. So my whole point of sharing about this is not because I want to encourage people to like sign up with the non-GMO and get a butterfly. And I'm not saying that
wasn't your point.
Right. But I'm also not saying that companies that have this butterfly are not quality or transparent companies. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that this is a sales pitch. This is a marketing sales pitch. And they're saying that just because this label, and then if you go through the qualifications, yes, there are some vigorous one-time qualifications, one time. Okay. But most of these things are not something that I personally feel, especially if it came to my meat and my meat. Okay. When I go to the supermarket, that is not a label that I trust buying my meat personally. Other people might find that, but if they read this, right now, is it better than the alternative? Possibly. We don't really know. We don't know.
I think that the best thing to do is head over to queenbeespharmacy.com. Check out what she has over there. And not only that, because you also have resources about how to do the farm share, and how to do the vegetable share and things like that. So
and even if people aren't in our general area, we have so many connects with farmers now, even in Australia, which is very cool, right? But we can definitely link you with people. And there's actually some really great reputable farms right now that are shipping nationwide, not these like butcher box, these like corporate type of things, but real actual farms that are in my state that I am able to go look at. And I'll tell you, even though I'm not buying from them necessarily, if I needed to have it shipped, I would. Like if I was going across country to visit my cousin in California, I would use this farm to ship out what I wanted to eat. If that, I think it's great quality. So
listen, we got the meat, right? We got the meats, we got the resources, we got the connects, we got the community. Check out queenbeespharmacy.com, teachingliberty.org for all of that information. Follow us on social media because we're always going hard over there in the comments. And thank you, Elizabeth, for continuing to share this information. And I look forward to our next video, which is going to be about camping etiquette.
Camping etiquette. Yeah, I'm excited for camping. I mean, most people don't know. So we just got to share the info and let them know, hey.
And you'll want to, because you do not want the wrath of Elizabeth at the campsite.
I mean, I just kept my mouth shut and vented to you after.
That's true. I might have taken a brunt of it. All right, guys, I appreciate you. Make sure you've liked this video, subscribe to the channel, check us out on all our platforms, do all that good YouTube stuff. Stay beautiful, because you know that when we think free, we live free.